Chelsea are, of course, managed by an ex-Spurs legendary manager, Mauricio Pochettino, and it's tempting as a Tottenham fan to laugh at what is going on there, but I wanted to take more of a deep dive into what is happening. Is it actually a crisis at Chelsea, or is that just Spurs fans wishing it was? So I've invited Matt Beadle, football coach and Chelsea fan, onto the show. I asked him if he would come and do a deep dive into Chelsea, and he replied, yes, when are you ready to do the Chelsea Mauricio Pochettino obituary? So I think maybe that says something for itself. Matt, how are you, mate?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. It's good to be on. Nice to see you again, buddy.
I wanted to start by going into a little bit of the stats for any fans who aren't Chelsea fans who maybe haven't looked into it that much. Chelsea currently 9th in the Premier League, which actually surprised me because they have been a bit lower. So the form up until the last, certainly up until 2 of the last 3 games, hasn't been as bad as maybe we thought. 44 points, 1-12, drawn 8, lost 10. Obviously, the thing that really steers it at the moment, and I think is making Chelsea fans particularly angry, is that they've just drawn against Sheffield United and Burnley, either side of a Manchester United win. And then the one thing I wanted to bring up before we start is that statement from the Supporters Trust, where they said that they felt that currently they are close to, if not already experiencing, a significant shift in fan opinion that could lead to irreversible toxicity. So Matt, as a Chelsea fan, and I think quite a level-headed Chelsea fan, which is why I wanted to have you on about this, you know, where do we start and what does it really feel like, you know, from the inside?
Where do we start is a good question. It is, it's a total disaster. It has not worked. And I think I and a lot of Chelsea fans are disappointed with that. I think back to certainly in the Chelsea universe, the grand announcement that Poch was going to be the manager in the summer. It was the second coming, and he was going to solve all the problems that Potter had created and bad management had created, blah blah blah. And he was, I remember in his first interview, they did sort of an interview in some kind of almost, it looked like a spa or something. You know, he was just relaxed and it was all cool and beautifully lit and whatever. And the question came, you know, you got a very young team. You know, is this a project you have to build? And he went, yeah, it's definitely a project, but I appreciate at Chelsea, you don't have time and we will be good immediately. So he made that promise to the Chelsea fans. I think if he had gone the old, this is a project we need to build kind of route, it would have been different. But he made that promise to the Chelsea fans. And I think they backed him based on, you know, what he achieved at Tottenham and Paris Saint-Germain. And it hasn't worked. Mate, I thought you just quoted some stats. And you also mentioned the trust, that email from the Chelsea Trust. I got that as well. And that was damning in the extreme. And they are uber conservative, right? They are really safe. They never want to bite the hand that feeds them. Yeah. They get to use the VIP facilities for their meetings and stuff like that at the bridge. And, you know, the club looks after them. And they definitely don't want to be then anti towards a club that have done a lot for them. But that letter was damning in the extreme, and social media and the Chelsea fan world has gone nuts. You mentioned that game against Sheffield United, for example. On their Twitter feed, they post a picture of the goalkeeper sort of with a bit of a glum look on his face, full-time 2-2. I'll just give you a feeling for the kind of post we got. First guy chooses 17, #Poch out. Sack him now. Disgraceful. Sack Pochettino, I beg you. Absolute disgrace. Get Badiashile out. It's a different look, but he's brought the Spurs mentality to Chelsea. That's probably my favorite.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that. We're hearing a lot about that.
It is non-stop disappointment and hatred. Now, you have to remember, Chelsea have a culture of putting the Chelsea fans, since Abramovich was there, certainly, have never leveled their anger at the board. They didn't ever want to touch Abramovich because they felt, you know, that his money brought us all that success. And I think the thought at the moment is kind of the same. I think it's clear that no one is under any illusions that Bowley has no idea about football and doesn't understand the sport at all. But the £1 billion that he brought is kind of our new best friend. And so the focus, the hatred or the anger has always been on managers. And you see that Chelsea get a load of managers sacked, and the fans have no doubt added to that and push some of those sackings. But Poch is, I was going to say dead man walking, but he's way past that. It feels like the only reason he hasn't been sacked is because they don't know how to hire a new manager. I mean, it's that level. It's really sad.
Yeah, so that was going to be you've gone into where I wanted to go with it really, which
Sorry,
is
mate. I didn't mean. You can see I'm emotional about this.
no, it's good. No, it's perfect. No, you've gone into kind of the theme that I wanted to get to here, really, which is, and I'm actually kind of surprised that you. I think I was expecting a little bit more from you to be like, which manager could do any better at this point. Like I think Pochettino, to some degree, used the term dead man walking. I think to some degree, because of his history at Tottenham, and we've seen this when it came to Conte and Jose when they came to Spurs, because of their history with Chelsea, as soon as they had a bad run, they were dead men walking. Like you get half as many games. And I think with Pochettino, I've certainly watched a lot of, Chelsea kind of influencer YouTube videos where they're so angry at Pochettino because when he did an interview before the Tottenham Chelsea game, he said he still loved Tottenham and, he couldn't rule out managing again there again one day and stuff like that. So it's that kind of culture. And I'm not saying that you agree with that. But what I'm saying is a little bit, I don't see from afar which manager could do any better. Obviously, Graham Potter went in there. I think he had a better record, or at least comparative record to Pochettino. Obviously, Frank Lampard had to go there in a caretaker role. And now Pochettino, I don't see where you can actually go. And maybe that is why they haven't sacked him, because there's no answer to me. And actually, I was going to come to this at the end, but it's relevant now. Some of the fans now calling for Jose Mourinho to come back, which to me is so mad, because the one thing that Jose can't do, as far as I'm concerned, and the reason why he is no longer getting the success, is he can't deal with these Gen Z players. He can't deal with these players who are more emotionally vulnerable and aren't just able to be battered with the stick. And if you bring him in, I think it's like, I understand the sentiment of like, Jose, each time he's come in, he's won us a league or whatever, but I think that would be way more disastrous than what you've got with Pochettino at the moment.
I'll eliminate that from our inquiries immediately. That's absolute nonsense, because Jose Mourinho 2024 is light years away from Jose Mourinho 2005 and 2014. Okay, that's or 2011. That's just total pie in the sky thinking. He is not the coach he once was. He doesn't have that genius that he once had. And like you say, he's never been good with young sides. Okay. He's good with 27, 28, 31-year-olds. Chelsea got a whole load of 19 and 20-year-olds. So forget it. I'll go to the question, who else could do it? I'd like to sort of take that question and answer it in a slightly different way. The Chelsea team actually, when they have the ball and when they attack, aren't playing very badly. They're scoring a lot of goals. They're creating an absolute hatful of chances. I don't know whether you saw that ridiculous statistic that only 2 games in Premier League history have had more than 47 shots on target. And the last 2 Chelsea games were those 2 games. Yeah, and for me, it's one of the most extraordinary statistics I've ever heard. So Chelsea are exciting with the ball going forwards. It's a bit crazy, and it doesn't look very structured, but it's definitely exciting. They've got a batch of very exciting players. But as you say, they are completely brittle defensively, and I think brittle emotionally as well. Apart from Cole Palmer, no one seems to, fancy their chances after one goal's gone in. So who could do a better job? You know what? That's not really the point at the moment. The point is, why is Poch, with all of his history and all of his talents, not getting a tune out of these players? Not just going forwards, because the great Tottenham side, the Kane, Son, Dele Alli side, you were great going forwards, but you weren't really, it's not like you were Jurgen Klinsmann porous at the back. I mean, you were, No,
we had Walker, Rose, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, and it was the strongest back four we've had in generations.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what his favorite back four is. He's changed the goalkeeper around.
Yeah.
He sticks with the 2 boys in midfield. They've cost £250,000 between them, and they are undoubtedly good footballers. One of them won the World Cup, and the other one was one of the best players in the Premier League last year. But they look like completely different players this year.
Yeah.
And that's either down to environment, or I'm sorry, it's down to the manager. And he hasn't created an environment where they were able to be the players that they were when they won the World Cup and they were the best player at Brighton.
What about pressure? What about the pressure of the transfer fees, and the pressure of, this has to happen now because of the money Todd Bowley and Clearwater have spent on this team? Surely that's affecting all of these young players.
I think it definitely is, because they're all overpriced. every single one of them has been overpaid for. But we know, we've been watching football our whole lives, Barney. You know, play that is a part of the modern game, and it has been since Trevor Francis, right? Professional footballers in the top flight, and I know Tottenham fans hate Chelsea, but Chelsea are one of the bigger clubs in Europe, or have been for the last 20 years. If you go to Chelsea, whether you cost 40 million or 120 million, you know, money is in the headline. So two generations of Chelsea players have been able to deal with that. Why can't this one? I don't understand that. I don't put that down to Poch's. I don't give Poch the credit for that. I wanted to address your question about the Chelsea Tottenham elephant in the room, right? Tottenham fans hate Chelsea. Chelsea fans hate Tottenham. The Chelsea fans are not very vocal. Like it's always been a bit a point of chagrin for me. I've always wanted my club to be a bit more vociferous. Stamford Bridge can be quite a quiet place. It's not like, I don't know, like Palace or somewhere. There are definitely clubs that have better atmospheres. They don't sing very much, but one song that they've sung for 40 years is "We Hate Tottenham" and "We Hate Tottenham," which is, you know, sort of standard Chelsea fan lyrics. It's not very complex, but I think it gets the point across. They hate Tottenham, and I thought when they announced Poch, I thought there was going to be this huge revolution, like there was with Benitez, for example, or like there was when Conte went to Tottenham, or when I don't know, Mason Mount went to Man U or something like that. Right. I thought there was going to be that kind of hatred, and there wasn't at the beginning. There was this, all right, he came from Tottenham, but he's not a Tottenham guy. No, he's a Paris Saint-Germain guy. Do you know what I mean? He's Argentinian, so he'll be, I don't know, whatever. You know, they make their stories up. They haven't hated him because he's Tottenham. They've hated him because his team is brittle. Or they have come to hate him because his team is brittle. And now that we're seeing how brittle it is, and he can't get out of it, because we keep, you know, every so often, every seventh game, there's a really great performance, and everyone's like, he's turned a corner. They've turned the corner 7 times, and actually they haven't turned the corner. And now people are going, you know what? Let's bring the Tottenham arguments into it as well. It's been an abject disaster, mate. And I bet you guys are absolutely loving it.
You know, we've certainly taken our amount of stick from Chelsea down the years. I think for me, there's just more to it than it being as simple as loving it. Look, I have been intrigued by it because actually watching it from afar, Chelsea always seem to play well this season against the good teams. It's against the teams where you're expected to win, where it feels like that's where the pressure comes in, or a weird mixture of pressure to win plus complacency or something. And in terms of the brittleness, if that is indeed a word, it strikes me that yes, every player that's had to come into Chelsea over the last 20 years has had to deal with pressure. But is this not the first time where you've basically had an entire back four have to play a lot who are young players because not just of the signings that come in, but also because of Chilwell and Reece James's injuries, and obviously Thiago Silva, you know, amazing player, but kind of, I think, finally kind of reaching his last legs in the Premier League. So that if I was on, you know, I'm playing devil's advocate, but if I was Pochettino, I'd be saying, you know, I've been dealt a bit of a raw hand there.
Yeah, it's definitely raw's a good word, particularly in the back four. Reece James, I think he's one of the best right backs in the world. He's the club captain. He's played whatever he's played, I don't know, 200 minutes or something the entire season. Chilwell, you can argue, is a top 5 left back in Europe as well. Hasn't played much. You know, when those two played, we won the Champions League, right? And a huge part of it was because of them. Yes, that's made a difference. Yes, Thiago Silva's old and he hasn't played much either. He's been injured as well. So yeah, you have had back fours sometimes with an average age of 21, which is tough in the Premier League. Let's not muck about. But they've cost £250,000, right? So some kind of research and money ball has gone into getting these boys.
True.
And I go back to that statement that Poch made at the beginning before the season. He said, we don't have time. We have to be good right now. And he hasn't been able to do that. So I think it's all about expectation management. If you come in and you say this is going to be a project, these boys are young, give them time, whatever, we may have to finish mid-table for a couple of years, then maybe the response...
He couldn't have said that, though. He would have been out the next day.
Well, maybe.
I think he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't.
Exactly.
You know, he has. I agree. He's made a rod for his own back, but what a position.
Yeah. No, all right. I'll give you that. I want to come to another thing, and this is not a Poch attack, because I always liked his interviews when he was at Tottenham. I remember the turning point. I remember the first match of the day where he spoke to the interviewer in English. Do you remember that? I was like, it had been like a year or two.
Well, at Southampton, he didn't speak in English, and then Daniel Levy told him he had to. Yeah.
Was Tottenham the first? Was his first interview in English as a Tottenham manager? In fact,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I remember that, and I remember the guys in the studio at Match of the Day talking about it, whatever. And I remember thinking, I'm happy for this boy. He's arrived now, and his English is fine. It doesn't seem to have improved markedly.
But I think he does that. I think that maybe he does that on purpose a little bit. I was
just going to make that point. He kind of smushes his responses, and his bad English helps him. Not bad is unfair, but his non-native English kind of helps him smush it because he seems to change direction all the time. The question might come, I don't know, do you think that we're too brittle at the back or whatever? And he'll smush up. He'll talk about the crowd a bit, and he'll talk about the referee a bit, and he'll talk about the game a bit, and he'll talk about desire and ambition and what. And you're like, I didn't really get your philosophy there, mate. And my counter question to you was, did you feel that the communication was good when he was doing well at Tottenham? Did he seem to linguistically be able to express that he knew exactly what he was doing and it had turned out how he wanted it to?
Yeah, absolutely. When things were going well, it was absolutely, he was like, he was so inspiring because he would just tell it how it is. I don't know if you remember, but I'm pretty sure it was after the second leg in Amsterdam of the Champions League where he got through to the final. He did this. It was like a social media clip that he'd done in the changing room after, where he's kind of gesturing to the size of the balls that the players had to get through that situation. And then he was asked about it in the interview after, and he was just like, he managed to eloquently, talk his way around it based on not trying to say it exactly as it was. But he was always able to when it's going well. And I think potentially there's an element of him fudging it when it's not going well. I thought it was interesting actually after the Man United win, which that was the first time where he kind of ran onto the pitch and turned to the fans and asked for some adulation. He came out in his interview and said that was the first time he'd felt some connection with the fans. But unfortunately, if you do that, you can't then go and draw the next game afterwards to someone in the relegation zone, Sheffield United.
No, it were 9 points from safety.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all.
There's one other thing that I thought worth bringing up. I saw an interview with the football finance expert, Stefan Borsen, who talked about the realities of how much trouble Chelsea are in, having been the only club who have actually admitted rather than tried to fight,
found out.
Basically cheating of the financial fair play rules. And what this is about is different to the PSR, the profit and sustainability rules, which Forest and Everton have been done by. This is kind of going back 10, 15 years, and Abramovich and Marina, his kind of CEO, the dealing with agent payments and player payments through offshore accounts and separate companies and stuff. He was saying that because of the admissions of that, they will get some kind of mitigating circumstances in terms of getting less of a penalty, but he still cannot see how it's not going to be like huge penalties because of the length of time that it was happening for. And he also talked about, and I'm sure you've read about this because there've been some rumors about, obviously Conor Gallagher, but Reece James as well, talking about that you need huge money coming in before June the 30th for the profit and sustainability rules as well. How do Chelsea fans feel about the realities of potential penalties going forward?
Well, obviously it would be absolutely horrendous, but if I'm honest, it's been a ticking time bomb for 25 years. I think you don't need to be a financial fair play expert to see that Chelsea did things differently, right? They were owned by an oligarch who himself became a billionaire in a matter of months under rather suspicious circumstances, allegedly. So he's, I think he was certainly an expert at hiding the money trail. So it was just one of those things that Chelsea fans were kicking the can down the road and just, expecting that it'll come out one day and the real truth or exactly how all that success was achieved will come out. If those reports you talk about are true, then yeah, I can see this being bad. But I don't think Chelsea are the only club there. I think Man City are definitely in that boat as well. And I think other clubs potentially also.
The big difference with Man City and Chelsea, though, is Chelsea having admitted it, and that's a Bowley and Clearlake thing where they saw it and they were like, okay, we're going to admit it. Whereas Man City are literally wrapping theirs in as much red tape as they can and kicking it down the road as far as they can in the hope that one day it'll just go away. Man City have 115 charges, many, many more than Chelsea have.
They do indeed, and like you say, admitting to things is one thing. I think the change of regime has helped that. I wanted to talk about your mention of Conor Gallagher just briefly, because that's a slight, if I understand it correctly, it's a slightly separate situation.
Yes.
There's the current
profit sustainability
regulations
rules,
they have to meet, and then there's the historical thing. And
Yeah.
the current one, as I understand it, if you sell a homegrown player, it's called pure profit.
Yeah. It goes straight on the balance sheet. Yeah.
It comes straight off the balance sheet. And so now okay, we happen to have a world-class right back when he's fit, and I won't say world-class, but a very good centre midfield player who was English. So, you know, they probably both get, I don't know, they probably both go for upwards of 70, 80, 90, 100 million, I reckon. So you take that, you would take that straight off the balance sheet, as you say. But then the thing that has made Chelsea, for me, really exciting, finally, in the last 5 years, has been that wonderful focus on that incredible academy. And it is, by all accounts, one of the best academies in the world. It's won the Youth League, I don't know, 5 or 6 times or something. Phenomenal work that they put in. And just to think that that's only there to cover the financial irregularities of the main club, that seems really sad. And that doesn't seem like the point of an academy for me. So I would be heartbroken if Reece James and Conor Gallagher and others were sold basically just to put a number in an Excel file.
Yeah, I think a problem you've got, I mean, interestingly, this is where Man City, you know, for all of their cheating, have done incredibly well, which is they've used their money over the last 20 years to build up their academy, and they built that incredible campus around the Etihad, and now they are Cole Palmering their way into amazing financial situations by just selling off those academy players at huge numbers. I mean, Cole Palmer has been incredible, but the reality of Cole Palmer is that he'd only played a handful of games for Man City, and they got what, £50 million for him. So you know that I think you'd have to look at the Chelsea academy and actually say, it's, you know, yes, I agree with you, and you're lucky that Frank Lampard came in and actually played some of those players, but it might be a little bit of a savior for you to be able to sell some of those players coming through in a similar way to Man City over the next few years.
I think it's definitely going to be, and it has been over the years. You know, if I think of the players like Livramento and Mason Mount and a host of others who have made the club a huge amount of money and basically cost next to nothing. They've done that very well, but that wasn't the reason why the Chelsea Academy was set up and became what it was. It became what it was to bring talent through, and it achieved in that. And it now just seems to be a money stream, just like the Man City one is. I, as a football coach, and I work with under 21, and I have worked with youth teams in the past, under 16s, under 17s, and I believe, you know, wholeheartedly in the development of youth and the holistic development of youth, and really looking after their mental health and really organizing a pathway for them and whatever. And when I am starting to realize that big clubs are basically just seeing them as money-making widgets, it's sad, particularly when my own club does it, particularly when my own club a couple of years ago got to the promised land of blooding talented kids and winning games with it. I mean, I think every true football fan, that's the absolute goal, isn't it? You know, and that Lampard team, although they didn't win anything particularly, that was probably my favorite time as a Chelsea fan, even more than the glory days of winning titles.
That says a lot. That says a lot, doesn't it? That says a lot, really. I mean, maybe there's an argument to say it's easier to feel like that because you'd won everything before that, you know. But you know, but as a Spurs fan, we're certainly in a position where we don't. Since Harry Kane, there was a period around Harry Kane where we had a load all together: Andros Townsend, Harry Kane, Jake Livermore, all three, Ryan Mason, all four played for England, actually, funnily enough, although arguably maybe they shouldn't have, some of them. But there was that amazing, you know, that amazing period.
And then had a couple of cracking games for England.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's had a couple of cracking games for every club he's played at, but there are now about 6 of them. But good bloke and good player. But you know, we haven't had anyone since Harry Kane, and that's a big, you know, you'll understand it. That's a big thing within the Spurs fan base. You know, we want players coming through, but the reality is, our academy at this stage isn't good enough for the players to come through. But I think Postecoglou, and certainly we've made a lot of changes in the recruitment team and the backroom staff and whatever, and you know, in the business side, they are keen to improve that. But it's going to take us, I think, about 15 years to catch up with the Man Cities and Chelseas on that front. But it is interesting to hear you say, you know, the most enjoyable time was when you were seeing those players coming through, because I think that is more important to fans than maybe football clubs realise.
But we both know that clubs haven't cared about what fans think for a very long time.
No, and you know, I don't know if you've heard about the fact that Tottenham have just cut off the seniors' ability to get lower prices, and are
Oh,
putting the
that's
season
nice.
tickets up and everything. Yeah, exactly. So that's only going one way as well. Okay, I just want to end this really by asking you then, what is next then? So you think Pochettino is going to go, but they'll wait till the summer, and what do you envisage being the kind of short-term next steps for Bowley and Clearlake, who, let's face it, they have to do something to turn around their opinion within the fan base as well, because like you started with, it's clear to everyone that they don't have a clue what they're doing.
I don't think they're going to sack him. I think he's going to go through the end of the season. I think they're hoping that they're going to skank and winning the FA Cup.
Right.
And I think they still believe that they might scrape into the European places. If they'd beaten Sheffield United, Sheffield United scored in the 95th minute. Okay, Chelsea scored in the 100 and whatever minute the week before that, but they were very close. And I saw that game. Chelsea were the better side. If they'd won that game, everyone would have been talking about turning the corner. I think they would have been 1 point off 7th or something. And then all of a sudden, you can finish and go, oh, with a young team, we got them into Europe from being 12th last year or whatever. And that looks like progress. I think they're still clinging to that, and it might still happen in the last 7 weeks. And if that happens and you win a cup and you get into Europe, then everyone will be patting themselves on the back and saying, oh, this is the next step that we wanted to take. If they don't, I think they will, PR it up as just having missed our goal, and so that wouldn't be reasons for sacking anyway. I don't think he's going to be sacked because he's going to cost a fortune to get rid of, to let go of. And you could see that with Potter, that they weren't as trigger happy to sack the coach as certainly Granovskaya was. So the new regime does seem to have a little bit more patience. He was only sacked because he was absolutely awful. Right. And at least Pochettino is winning some games, and some of them look quite nice. Even the games that Chelsea won under Potter were just dreadful. You just couldn't watch it.
Right.
So, and I think they're going to try and find some kind of mathematically inventive way to go again in the summer. And I think you're going to see Chelsea buy 5 more superstars in the summer. I don't quite know how they do it.
I think that's why they have to sell before June 30th, is simply not only to, to get through the rules, but then to be able to then spend another 150, 200 mil.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see that. That is my prediction. But we've been proved wrong in football before.
Yeah, it's true. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. Matt, let the audience know where they can find your stuff.
You're a good man. My website is mattbeadle.com, and on all socials, it's Matt L. Beadle. All the very best of luck to Tottenham Hotspur this year. He said with his fingers crossed.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for thanks, Matt. Sorry. Thanks, guys, for watching and listening. Please do press like and subscribe on the YouTube video, and go across to the podcast platform, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Give me a follow, a subscribe there. It's really helpful. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a Spurred On Pro member on YouTube or Patreon member. Just look in the description box. Only £1 a month. But I hope you enjoyed that little Chelsea deep dive. Let's face it, it's good at the moment. Come on, you Spurs.